The Council and the Human Question. In the cold brilliance of Council Station Oyuraxis, an artificial sun hung at the center of a vast garden of steel and glass. The main hall was a cathedral of voices, languages clashing like the stars outside. Species of every shape and temperament filled their designated seats, some in atmospheric domes, some in shadowed alcoves, and some towering above all on crystalline thrones. The humans, newest members of the galactic community, walked in a small line, three among hundreds. Captain Jake Morrison's boots made no sound on the polished floor, but his pulse hammered in his ears. At his side, Dr. Lisa Hamilton clutched her digital slate, eyes wide at the kaleidoscope of non-human faces. Commander Rick Torres brought up the rear, tall and calm, but his jaw was clenched tight. Each wore the new blue uniform of Earth's interstellar diplomatic corps, their only armor against the unknown dot above them. The council speaker appeared a being of pure radiant energy, shifting constantly from blue to gold to white, its voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere. Welcome, humans of Earth. You have come far. Today, we offer you the peace that holds our galaxy together. Jake bowed his head. Thank you, Speaker. We hope to learn and to contribute. The speaker's light flickered, a sign of pleasure. Lisa guessed from her briefings, but the formalities quickly faded. The real reason for the meeting became clear as Ambassador Zixthera of the Crystalline Dominion, a glittering insectile being, fluttered to the center. Today, we discuss the Universal Surrender Protocol, she intoned, the rule that prevents destruction when disputes arise. Dr. Hamilton's stylus trembled over her notes. Is surrender always the answer? She asked quietly as a translation relay rendered her words for all. A massive stone being, granite muscles rippling, rumbled with laughter. Of course, when one side is outmatched, they yield. Only fools continue fighting for lost causes. All around, the other delegates nodded or gave alien equivalents, flashing. Humming, changing color. Jake felt the tension on Earth. Some of our greatest stories are about people who refused to surrender, even when they couldn't win. Sometimes that stubbornness is what saved us. Ambassador Zixthera's wings flickered uneasily. But that is chaos. Civilization is order. Order is maintained by accepting defeat when it is clear. Rick Torres spoke for the first time, his voice calm but firm. So, if someone stronger attacks, you just give up. It is the law of peace, said the speaker. We expect you will learn and follow it, for your own good. But Jake's eyes met Lisa's, and both saw the same unspoken thought. How do you explain to an entire galaxy that humanity simply doesn't quit? They left the hall in silence, each feeling the weight of centuries of human history pushing back. Against the Council's traditions, Jake whispered, they think surrender is natural. I think they're about to be surprised. The Voron ultimatum across the spiral arms. The Voron Empire blue-skinned. Four-armed warriors bred for war watched the Council's proceedings with interest. The Vorons had expanded for centuries, carving new territory wherever they wished, always following the log challenge and surrender. For them, every war was a game, with set rules and expected outcomes. Now, human settlers had made colonies on Kepler 7, Kepler 12, and Kepler 15 rich worlds the Vorons had once claimed and then forgotten. But their new emperor, War Prince Tekor, wanted those resources, and he knew the Council would back any formal challenge. The message arrived on Earth's flagship, New Horizon, as Admiral Grace Chun sipped her morning coffee. To the human settlement, the transmission began in perfect English. You have 72 standard hours to remove all personnel and equipment from these worlds. If you do not comply, the Voron Empire will remove you by force. Grace set her cup down, days hardening. Options? She asked her staff. Colonel Tony Martinez, grizzled and stubborn, spoke up first. If we evacuate, we lose everything. If we fight, they wipe us out. Council law says we should surrender. Chief. Engineer Amy Brooks, young and brilliant, looked up from her datapad. What if we don't? What if we make it too costly for them to fight us? There was silence. The thought was heresy. Surrender was the expected, peaceful choice. Grace stood, her decision made. Prepare every ship for defense. Begin civilian evacuation drills, but no one leaves their home unless they choose. We're not giving up our worlds without a fight. Messages flew across the stars. The Vorans were stunned to receive a polite but firm no from the humans. War Prince Thekor's aides stared at the reply, his forehands trembling. They refuse, sire. They say these are their homes. Send the demand again, the prince ordered. Make it clear resistance is hopeless. This is how it has always been. But on every human colony, families made their choice. Some left for safer ground, but most stayed. Engineers welded armor to mining ships. Civilians drilled with weapons. Old war stories about Thermopylae, about Leningrad, about the siege of Tyre were told again, not as ancient history, but as guides for survival. And above all, Admiral Chun's voice crackled through every comlink. We do not surrender what we love. Make them remember us. The battle no one expected. The Voron fleet darkened the stars. 200 ships, each bristling with weaponry, approaching the Kepler colonies in perfect formation. The council observers watched from their distant stations, expecting a quick, bloodless surrender. It was the way things were always done, but what they saw instead was chaos. The first Voron landing ships were ambushed before they reached the surface. Human pilots had turned mining asteroids into kinetic weapons, sending rocks tumbling through the enemy ranks. Automated mining lasers, repurposed as defense turrets, cut down boarding parties. Human engineers hacked the Voron's comms, spreading confusion with false orders and phantom distress calls. On Kepler 7, Rick Torres led a squad of farmers and miners, using old-fashioned guerrilla tactics. They hit the Voron landing zones with flash fires, retreating into the mountains, then struck again from behind. Every farm, every mine became a fortress. Voron commanders, trained for formal battle, were infuriated by the unpredictability. This is not war, one captain shouted, as her troops chased ghosts through endless tunnels in space. Jake Morrison led a flotilla of converted cargo haulers, using decoys and camouflage to lure Voron ships into asteroid fields. They lost 3 ships the first day, but took out 4 Voron destroyers in return, a trade the council considered unthinkable. Every time the Vorons expected surrender, they got stubborn resistance instead. Every time they prepared for a decisive blow, the humans slipped away, regrouped, and struck back harder. The council relayed messages, begging both sides to observe the surrender protocols. It is not too late to yield, said Ambassador Zixthara, her crystal wings drooping with distress. But on every channel, the answer was the same. We hold. The first week became 2. The Voron fleet was still superior, but for the first time in centuries. They were losing ships and officers at a rate no one thought possible. All across the galaxy, beings who had never questioned the old laws began to wonder, what if surrender was not the only answer? The tipping point, the battle stretched into its 3rd brutal week. Human ships, battered but not broken, now coordinated through secret channels built by Amy Brooks' engineering teams. Every colonist became a spotter, every drone a spy. The Voron command structure, built on the certainty of quick victories, began to fracture. Officers argued over who should lead. Some urged retreat. Others demanded an all-out bombardment. War. Prince Thekor, desperate to restore order, ordered a massive assault on Kepler 12, the colony he believed to be the heart of the resistance. But as his ships entered orbit, human defenders triggered a series of electromagnetic mines, frying the guidance systems of the lead Voron ships. As chaos spread, Jake Morrison's ragtag fleet punched through the confused Voron line, scattering the enemy and seizing 2 capital ships. On the ground, Rick Torres' guerrillas coordinated with hidden engineers, setting off avalanches that wiped out advancing Voron armor columns. Even the council's diplomatic observers found themselves ducking for cover as the front line shifted. Unpredictably, for the first time, council analysts admitted privately, in whispers, that the Voron Empire might actually lose. Back on council, Station Oyuraxis, the speaker called an emergency session. The protocols are failing. The humans refuse to yield. The Vorons cannot win with their usual methods. What do we do? Some called for intervention, but others, especially those whose worlds had once been taken by the Vorons, watched with a strange, secret hope. Humanity, battered and bloodied, still stood. Their colonies scarred, but not broken. Their people exhausted, but unbowed. In a final desperate message, War Prince Thekor called Admiral Chun directly. Why do you fight? Your defeat is certain. Surrender, and I promise mercy. Admiral Chun's answer was simple, and it echoed through every human camp. If you want our worlds, you'll have to take them from our hands. The message, translated into 100 languages, spread across the stars. The lesson of Earth at dawn on the 4th week. The Voron fleet withdrew from Kepler system space. The price had been too high. Their warships limped away, battered, their officers shamed. Not a single human colony had surrendered. On Council Station, the news sent shockwaves through every delegation. For the first time in centuries, the law of surrender had failed. Asterisk. The speaker called the humans to the hull. All eyes were on Admiral Grace Chun, flanked by Jake Morrison, Lisa Hamilton, Rick Torres, Amy Brooks, and colonists from every world that had survived the assault. Speaker Velter's radiant form flickered with uncertainty. You have changed the galaxy? Your refusal to yield has rewritten our laws. Tell us, what is your law? Jake Morrison stepped forward, voice strong. We fight for what matters. We survive together. We never give up hope. Sometimes, standing and resisting is the only thing that saves what we love. Ambassador Zixtera, now humbled, asked, will others learn from your example? Lisa Hamilton nodded. They will. Already, voices from other worlds are calling for change. War Prince Thekor, bruised but wiser, bowed to Admiral Chun. I was wrong. I thought surrender was strength. But sometimes it is courage that changes fate. The Council, for the first time, debated new rules, ones that valued hope, determination, and the right to resist injustice. Back on Kepler 7, families rebuilt. Children planted flags atop battered homes. Veterans told news stories, not just of victory, but of never surrendering to despair. Humanity's reputation spread. Across the galaxy, oppressed peoples looked to Earth as a beacon, not because humans were stronger, but because they never gave up, never learned how to surrender. And in every council chamber, one phrase lingered, repeated in awe and sometimes in fear. The humans never learned to quit. Asterisk.